Sabo is not here. Dr. Schlepper.
Here.
Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I move to approve the minutes from our 7/24 meeting, 7/24/24 meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
Straining a little bit. I love that. Okay. Okay, before we get to the superintendent's report and the introduction and meeting all of our new staff, thank you so much for coming. I just want to take a minute and recognize our sound person who's here tonight. Larry Trace is here with us, and this is his 25th approximately year of doing the sound for our board meetings, for the district, for if you've been to any of our musicals. He's been with us all along, and we couldn't broadcast these meetings, we couldn't put on the shows at the intermediate school, we couldn't put on the shows at the PAC without Larry's contribution. And if we can just take a minute and give him a round of applause, because we really appreciate all he's done for us. Thanks, Larry. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our superintendent for the introduction of our new staff.
Wonderful. So as promised, we invited all of our new staff members here tonight, and thank you for coming a little early to do a meet and greet. But we also have our amazing administrative team with us tonight, and they will be the people that will do the introduction. So we'll start with the high school and introduce the high school principal, Amanda Rossi.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of welcoming 6 staff members to the high school this year, so we're really excited. Our first one is Nate Bachowski for high school choir. Nate earned his bachelor's of music, musical education from Baldwin Wallace. He also has his master's of education and educational leadership from Ursuline College. Nate served as a music teacher at Gurney Elementary, the middle school, and the high school here in the district for 9 years before pursuing other educational opportunities. He recently worked for Thunderbird Leadership Consulting as VP of Learning and Innovation, where he facilitated organizational development workshops and training for education and healthcare institutions nationwide. We are beyond excited to welcome him back to the district as our part-time choir teacher at the high school and middle school. Nate will also be reprising his role as spring musical and select choir advisor. Welcome, Nate. Emily Morgan is here this evening. Emily is an alumni of Chagrin Falls High School. She graduated from American University with a bachelor's in international studies. She went on to work internationally as a teaching assistant in Vienna, a youth development volunteer in Ukraine, a student monitor and trip in Costa Rica, and most recently was an ESL teacher in Spain. We are thrilled to welcome her on our staff as a building substitute. We believe that she is going to bring quite a lot of her own personal experiences and assist our students and staff and share in all of those. So thank you. Also here with us this evening is Valerie Yarmish. Valerie holds a Bachelor's of Science in Elementary Education from Cleveland State and a Master's of Arts in Education from the University of Akron with a computer technology endorsement. Prior to her employment in Chagrin, she was the Director of Educational Technologies at Magnificat High School, a fundamentals teacher facilitator for Code.org, and the Computer Science Department Chair and Teacher K through 12 at Hathaway Brown. Valerie's experiences are notable, and she will surely enhance our already robust computer science program here at Chagrin. So welcome, Valerie. Brittany Sorn, are you here? Brittany? Did not make it. Okay. Brittany was hired as our speech language pathologist across multiple buildings within the district. And we also, she's not here this evening. We also are welcoming Nick Taddeo as our health and PE teacher. He is joining us from Berkshire Middle School. And then we are welcoming back Matt Markusik as our permanent building sub at the high school. And Matt was with us Last year, after filling a long-term position, we enjoyed his company so much that we invited him to stay on as a building substitute and are welcoming him back again this year. So thank you. Now Mr. Howell will be up.
Good evening, I'm Curtis Howell. I'm the principal at Chagrin Falls Intermediate School. I have the pleasure of introducing 3 new staff that will be working in our building this year. My first is Ella Gartner. Ella will be teaching 5th grade language arts at CFIS. Ella attended the University of Tampa Bay in Tampa, Florida. She received her bachelor's degree from there in elementary education. She also received certification as a teacher of English for speakers of other languages, as well as a certificate as a reading endorsement teacher for grades K through 12. This will be her first job, so she's nervously excited. Next is Megan Campbell. Megan was a long-term sub for us last year, and then we had a 4th grade math, science, social studies opening that Megan applied for. And early on in the interview process, my teachers came to me and said, this is a no-brainer because she did such a rock-solid job for us last year. Megan has a bachelor's degree in math and social studies in grades 4 through 9 from Miami University in Oxford. She has a master's of education and educational leadership from High Point University. She also received her principal license while she was teaching in North Carolina. She just recently passed her science endorsement from the Department of Education and Workforce. Previously, Megan taught in North Carolina for 6 years, where she taught math, science, and social studies. My last one, who will split time between Gurney and the intermediate school, is Lisa Jackson. She will serve as our school psychologist. Lisa has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Ursuline College. She has a Master of Education in School Psychology from John Carroll University. Previous to coming to Chagrin, Lisa had her own practice as a school psychologist and also spent time at Jesu as well as St. Joan of Arc. And we welcome each of these 3 to our building. Next, I'll bring up Rachel Jones, who is the principal at Gurney Elementary.
All right. Thanks for having me here. We actually have 11 new people right now that we've hired for Gurney, but we're also filling a few more positions to come. So we have quite a new freshman class at Gurney. So I will start with our new 3rd grade teacher, Larissa Balachek. Larissa is a graduate of Kent State University with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education and a varsity field hockey player there for all 4 years. She just completed her first year teaching in Windsor, New York, where she's from, but she's happy to be back in Northeast Ohio. We're very happy to have her teaching 3rd grade next year. So welcome, Larissa. Next, I have Palin Benz. Palin is coming back to us. You might recognize the last name of coming through the district. Palin's going to be joining us as a preschool aide this year, and she's a recent graduate of the University of Hawaii, and I know I'm going to say it wrong, so okay, that's good enough, that's perfect. She has a bachelor's degree in sustainability with a minor in education. She was also just finished an educator internship at the Arboretum Ed Department, and she's also done a lot of youth volleyball coaching. So we're excited to have her as an educational aide in our preschool program this year. Next up is Rachel Jackman, kindergarten teacher this year. Rachel is a graduate from Ohio University with her bachelor's degree in early childhood education. She completed her student teaching in Belize. She taught 2nd and 3rd grade for a couple years in North Carolina, and then moved back to the area because she's from Solon, and worked at Gurney last year as an aide in Ellen Jones's classroom all year. So that was quite a long interview process. All year long, we interviewed her, and she's ready. So she really jumped into things last year, not only as an aide, but in some of our extracurricular programs. So we're really happy to welcome Rachel into our kindergarten teaching team this year. Next up is Stephanie Casper. Stephanie is our first grade intervention specialist, co-teacher. Stephanie graduated from Bowling Green State University with a bachelor's in education for intervention specialist, and she holds a K-12 mild moderate and moderate intensive teaching license. She has taught in-state and out-of-state. So she taught most recently in Bedford City Schools as a first grade co-teacher. So she's ready to roll right into this position, and we're happy to have her at Kearney. Last up is Samantha Kohler. Samantha is our new building substitute teacher this year. Samantha is a graduate of Kent State University with a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. She completed her student teaching and then served as a long-term substitute teacher in kindergarten at Echo Hills Elementary School in Stowe. So we're excited to have Samantha joining us. Not with us tonight, but also joining us this year. We're excited to have Andrea Barch joining us as a building aide for lunch and recess, as well as Callie Waddell as a building aide for lunch and recess. Katie Chapman is joining us as a new preschool specialized student support aide. Shelby Goldstein is joining us as a second grade specialized student support aide. And Kendall Schweitzer and Hallie Wagner both joining us as specialized student support aides in our first grade classrooms this year. That's it for now, but I think I'll be back next month.
So just a couple of things to emphasize, especially what Dr. Jones said. We did do an assessment today based on our enrollment and need to look at staffing. And so we do still have some openings across the district. I know that Chris Swifter was working and Mike Doherty were working to get a communication blast out on social media. But if there's any interest in even things like substitute teaching or being a substitute aide or working maybe in the cafeteria or secretarial, even bus driving, things like that, we do have openings. We also have openings for educational assistants right now that are posted. I think there are some building sub-positions open right now. I think an intervention specialist position we had open based on need. So if any of those positions, if anyone knows anyone that would be interested in applying, they can look on the website to see how to apply or contact our offices, and we'd be happy to help them. But our admin team obviously has done an outstanding job, and we're very thankful for you and for everything, for how you prepare and get us the best quality people to serve our district, and so we're so thankful. Can we just give the administrative team a round of applause? Mr. Morgan, can we introduce the bus driver, please?
Yes.
Because that's a very important position.
After Rachel's introductions, I think the timing for the Gurning lot parking expansion has been like perfect, so. I'm Mike Morgan, I'm the transportation supervisor. I'm happy to introduce Greg Dixon. He's gonna be our new bus driver in training, so he's gonna start out with a van. I asked Greg if there's anything that he wants me to say or not say, and he said, keep it brief, so I'm gonna do that. Greg's got 33 years of expanding leadership responsibilities within one of the largest and most reputable global information and technology organizations. His management career included U.S. and global assignments in customer service, sales, and technical operations. So Greg is recently retired and wants to keep active and contribute to the community. He's a South Russell resident, so local. He happened to be driving by and saw one of the little nice signs that we had out in front of Gurney and thought, let's check it out and see what it's all about. So we're excited to have Greg on board.
Thank you very much. All right, I know there's a couple more central office people here, so anyone else? Did I forget? Chris, everyone that's here is here? All right, thank
I
you.
think we're going to just take a quick break to say hello to everybody, and Mike, are you going to stop the recording and then restart it, or are we going to let it run? Okay, so we'll be about 10 minutes, it'll be muted and we'll be back. Okay. Next up is our treasurer's report.
Okay. I'm all flustered. I don't really have much to report on over the last week, except that yesterday we had a representative from the Auditor of State's office come out and present us with the Auditor of State Award with Distinction. So that was very nice. We were excited. She told us that only 4% of the auditees actually received that award, so I was pretty proud of my staff for that. And she took a picture with us and shook our hand, and it was nice. So thank you to the Auditor of State for actually sending people out to do that and actually present the award rather than just sending us an email. It was nice. So that's all I have.
Yay.
It's great, thank you. Do we have anybody signed up for public participation? Nope, okay. Next up, we're going to move to our consent agenda. I move to approve consent agenda items 5.02 through 3. Is that it, 5.02?
Correct. Through 5.03.
So 5.02. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, you take the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Sorry, I was nervous about that one.
Okay, next up is our superintendent's recommendations. Jennifer, do you want to walk us through these?
Sure. So the first recommendation is for certified personnel contracts. So we have building sub at the high school and I think certified substitutes, and there are some volunteers on that list.
And many of these people we just met tonight, so thank you. I move to approve superintendent's recommendation 6.01. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, you want to take the roll?
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Okay.
6.02 is for additional hours. I will just mention, we did have instructional coaching training today, and it went really, really well. And so in our upcoming agenda in August, there will be additional hours for the coaches to be going to after-school meetings and doing some of those things and doing some more curricular work. So this 6.02 you will be seeing again in the future because we still have some curriculum development to do.
Okay, great. I move to approve superintendent's recommendation 6.02. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
6.03 would then be our classified contracts for building aides. This would be our specialized student support aides, and again, our bus driver that we're so thankful to have, so.
Great. I move to approve superintendent recommendation 6.03. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Yes. Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
6.04 would be resignations. I will just remind you sometimes this time of year that we do hire the best, and sometimes even for those educational aid positions, they do secure things like teaching positions, and so sometimes we do have resignations this time of year that would cause us to have an opening, so that's what you're seeing.
Okay, I move to approve superintendent recommendation 6.04. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
6.05 is just a band camp volunteer. Everything was done, everything was processed. We just need to get the board approval for Vince.
Okay, I move to approve 6.05. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think that it's staff member payment and that he attended band camp. So all of his paperwork and everything was filed, but the dates occurred from 7/22 to 7/25. Just to clarify what.
Okay, so let me remove on that. 6.05, I move to approve 6.05 on the band camp staff member payment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
6.06 would be the community ed, and the attachment is where you'll find all of the pieces that will need to be for approval, programming.
Okay, I move to approve Superintendent Recommendation 6.06. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, next up are our treasurer recommendations. Ashley, we just have a couple of these. You want to take us through?
Sure. Item 7.01 is equipment disposal. There's 2 attachments there with items to be disposed of, some items at the high school, and then some of these black folding chairs. Not these that are sitting here, obviously. Recommending your approval.
Yes. Okay, I move to approve treasurer recommendation 7.01. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Item 7.02 is donations. We have a very generous donation of $10,000 from the Sugar and Falls Boosters to Tiger Perk, and that is on behalf of the Kaler family, so we're very grateful for that. Tiger Perk will be very happy. Recommending your approval.
Okay, I move to approve treasurer recommendation 7.02, donations. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And Ashley, on this one, do you want to just take a minute and explain? I think sometimes people are confused about how support organization donations work to the district and how that money flows back and forth and how that comes about. So can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so we have several support organizations in the district. They donate money for various purposes. Typically, they use a grant process where our teachers will fill out grant applications for exciting new things that they want to try or something that they want to do in the classroom. And then the support organizations will look at those grant applications, decide what they want to fund, and then typically we spend the money on the item first, and then the support organization reimburses us for that expenditure. That is just so that we get exactly the amount we spent, so that we avoid the whole, if there was a $5,000 grant and we only spent $4,800, we want to avoid having to cut another check for $200 back to the support organization. So we just do it on a reimbursement basis typically. There are also options where they can, just donate for a specific purpose, not necessarily a specific item. So this was a donation that the Kaler family provided the money to the boosters, and the boosters in turn made the donation to us for the Tiger Perk program. So,
Great. Is that good? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to take the roll on that one.
Mrs. Hoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Next item is a then and now certificate. This is for a payment to Mayfield City Schools for the Excel Tech tuition in the amount of $28,412.59. This is for the students that we have who attend Excel Tech at Mayfield. Very routine transaction. We do this all the time, but the invoice got lost. We never actually received it, and maybe somewhere in the district someone received it, but I don't believe we received it in my office. And then when they called and said, hey, you didn't send this, we had them resend the invoice. So the invoice then was dated before the purchase order. So that's why we have to do then and now. So I'm recommending your approval.
Great. I move to approve treasurer recommendation 7.04. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Wait, this is 3.
Oh, 3, sorry. I move to approve treasurer recommendation 7.03, which is the then and now certificate. Do I have a second?
I second, yes.
Ashley?
Okay, Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 7.04 is the annual filing of the commercial paper and bankers acceptances report. This is a compliance item. It's something that we file every year. It goes down to the state, and it's just something we have to do every year. It's just a list of everything that we had at June 30th. I don't believe that we have gotten it board approved in the past. We've just sent it because it is what it is, and these items actually are included in our report that you received that has all of the investments and those types of things. So it's all there. You've already approved it in the past. This year, there was just the recommendation from our investment advisor to get the individual report approved. I guess it's something that it's kind of going around. The state auditors are looking for that now. So now I will be bringing this to you every year to approve. So I'm recommending your approval.
Okay. I move to approve Treasurer Recommendation 7.04. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions on that? No? Ashley?
Dr. Slepper,
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
That's all for me.
Okay, any other business? Jennifer? No? Ashley? No? Okay, still nobody for public participation?
I didn't see anything.
Nope, nothing? Okay. All right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22 for the sole purpose of the consideration of the following matters: to consider one or more as applicable of the checkmarked items with respect to a public employee or official, checkmark items being employment and compensation of a public employee or official. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Hoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Slepper.
Yes.
And we will not take action after executive session. And our next meeting is
August
21st.
August 24th. And we're going to be,
21st here.
August 21st?
August 21st, 7 p.m. in Sands.
So we'll be back in the Sands. Okay, August 21st in Sands.
right?
Hopefully, we'll have
This is
power
the
in our
7th.